Hi, moguls. Welcome to the show. Today we have one of my favorite guests, Ned Brines. Ned is the CIO for a multi-billion-dollar family office, the Argyros family. Did I say that right, Ted?
That is correct.
Okay, Ned. George Argyros is the former owner of the Seattle Mariners, ambassador to Spain, and the second largest owner of apartments in Orange County, California. Ned has been managing money for close to 30 years. He's received his BS from San Diego State University and an MBA from the University of Southern California. And we're going to hear his story, how he retired super early. Hi, Ned. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Marilyn. How are you? And hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, moguls, get ready to listen to Ned's story. You're going to love it. So, Ned, you work in a family office. Can you describe exactly what a family office does?
Sure. So, as a family office, our job is to take care of the family being the Argyros family in our case. And so, when families get to a certain level of wealth, this family has, multiple billions of dollars, they tend to want to have things taken care of that they don't want to deal with. So, as an example, my role is I manage all their money. So that's one of the functions of the family office. We have what we call internal concierge services. So people who schedule their travel, their planes, their boats, making sure all their trips and whatnot are arranged. We have people here who manage their foundations. So they're one of the biggest donors in Orange County, if not the biggest donor in Orange County, to various charities. And so we have people that run and manage that part of the family for them. We have people who manage, hire, fire, pay, take care of all of the household employees at their different homes. So they have numerous homes around the world, and they all have permanent staff at them. So those need to be managed. So really, it's soup to nuts. Anything that the family needs done for both their personal and professional business, we are all employees that take care of that, those aspects of their life for them.
That's amazing. And I heard a story one time, a certain person that had a house, and they explained that just the light bulbs, switching the light bulbs in somebody's huge estate, you need someone just to switch out all the light bulbs, which could, it could be like hundreds of light bulbs in one house. So it's extensive work to run someone's multi-billion-dollar family.
I don't know that we have a light bulb changer here, but I will tell you that we do have a dog walker. Somebody who walks the dog every day, and they're in taking care of the dog and training it and walking it and feeding it and playing with it. So,
and do be careful of dog walkers, because you heard in the news that they're shooting people's dogs who apparently are rich and famous. And I don't know if you heard about Lady Gaga. Her dog walker got shot, and they took her to French bulldogs, but the bulldogs did come back, but the dog walker is shot. So do please tell everyone to be extra careful.
That's awful, but I'm going to guess that on Harbor Island, which is a private island in Newport Beach, there's probably not too many terrorists there attacking the dog walkers.
Oh my gosh. Well, see, that's what it's going to be coming to, that we need private islands. We do need security. We do need our police. And my dog was stolen in West Hollywood. Someone grabbed her from the park, but the social media rallied together, the neighbors, and somebody released her in the middle of the night, and I got her back. So it's for the dog. So well, I want to ask you, so tell us about the family you work for. Can you maybe share how they created their wealth and what they do now?
Yeah, so George Argyros graduated from Chapman University. I'm not sure if it was the late 50s or early 60s, and he was a grocery store manager in the city of Orange, and had this concept that if he could develop busy street corners in Orange County, which was relatively rural in those days, and maybe populate them with convenience stores and a gas station, kind of like what you see almost on every street corner today, just a little conglomerate of shops, that he might be able to make some money doing that. And so he would tie up the street corners in contract because he didn't have any money. And then he would go out and find an oil company, like an Exxon or in those days Gulf or Phillips 66, to commit to putting a gas station on the corner. And then he might find a mini mart like today like a 7-Eleven, but this is the precursor to 7-Eleven. And then he would get some fees out of that. And eventually he built up a little bit of wealth and started developing apartments. And built up a pretty good net worth, ultimately becoming the second largest apartment owner in Orange County with about 5,300 apartments here in Orange County.
Incredible.
And then, pardon me?
I said, that's a big amount of apartments, 5,300.
We have an entire business here. I was talking about how we manage the family's finances and whatnot here. We have an entire business here, just manages probably 200 people to manage those apartments. And then in the 70s, he started kind of buying and selling businesses. So he bought, you mentioned he was the owner of the Seattle Mariners. He bought the Mariners for about $12 million in the 70s and sold it for about $250 million at some point. He famously used to say he was the one who signed Ken Griffey Jr., who's, of course, a Hall of Famer now. He bought and sold Air Cal, which had filed bankruptcy. So he and William Lyon, the famous home builder, they were friends, and they got together and built that, or bought that and sold it to American Airlines for, about a 4 times profit. And he just kept doing that, buying and selling businesses. Number of names you know, like Igloo, used to be in part of the portfolio, and just built this massive fortune. I'm going to tell you, at the same time in the 70s, he started kind of that. Orange County has been very famous for being conservative politically, and he started, the new Republican clubs and was very instrumental in Republican politics here in California. Ultimately, he became, as you mentioned, the ambassador to Spain when George Bush was president from 2000 to 2004. And as you know, those are typically appointments to big donors or big fundraisers for the party. So he was very instrumental in helping, the Republican cause here in Orange County in those days. You ask what they're doing now. So today, they're both retired. The family is very philanthropic. We have a very large foundation here. It's hard to drive down a street here in Orange County without seeing the Argyros name on some building where they've donated money, whether it's the Performing Arts Center, Hoag Hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital. If you go to Chapman University, there's an Argyros School of Business where they've not only have donated an enormous amount of money there, but also have conducted massive fundraisers. We had a fundraiser last year for Chapman's Business School that was the single largest fundraise in one day in Orange County history. So they're very, very generous with their capital, making sure that, those in need, are being taken care of.
That's really beautiful. And let me just repeat for our audience, because we have aspiring moguls, we have people that are learning to do their first LLC or corporation or their first investment for the very first time. You said George was a former grocery store manager.
That's correct. That's how he started when he got out of college. He was the grocery store manager for a small independent grocer in the city of Orange.
So basically, his idea and his thinking of just coming up with idea to make Orange County have those streets, have many shopping centers, his idea, his invention, he was able to implement that, and without any former help, it looks like. So it seems like if you dream it, believe it, you can achieve it. So that's super inspiring to our audience today. And I want to ask you, you're such I hope you can share your story too. You run all their investments. How do you think about risk, returns, and asset allocation for the family?
Yeah, and that's a great question. As you can imagine, a portfolio this size is relatively complex. But I think the things that we do are applicable really to any size portfolio, and that is we start with risk first. I think a lot of people think about returns first. Where can I get the best return? We start with risk. Now, granted, we're in the stay rich business, not the get rich business. So the family's already rich, so our job is to keep them rich. So we have to think obviously about risk first. But I think that's a good lesson for any investor, is that you have to consider the risk of the investment first, because if the risk doesn't make sense for you, then you shouldn't be involved in it, no matter what the potential gains are on that investment. So we start with risk first, and we basically started with a budget and said, we are willing to allow our portfolio to go down by a certain number, okay, a certain amount, a certain dollar amount in a crisis. So last spring, I would call a crisis. When the markets collapsed and stock market was down 35+%, in 6 weeks, we had already planned for a scenario like that. We did not come close to hitting our downside number, even though we had kind of modeled that 35 to 40% was the kind of downturn we wanted to protect against. So we feel like the portfolio was pretty well positioned because of that. So the way you do that is you look at historical downturns and say, okay, when there's a downturn, let's say it's a stock downturn, you assume that if the market's down 35%, your stocks are going to be down at least that amount. So you take whatever your portfolio value is of stocks, cut it by 35%. You run different scenarios for bonds. Sometimes the bond market can be up in a downturn because people are fleeing for safety. Sometimes, as we saw last year, it can be down. So for us, because we want to maximize our planning for the downside, we modeled out bonds being down also. And then all your other investments, whether it's real estate, especially if you're getting cash flows off your real estate, you want to look at those and could those get impaired also? And that gives you your bottom line of, hey, this is the downside risk of my portfolio. And you can do it if you've got, $1,000 in the market today. You can look and say, listen, I've got a 35 to 40% potential for decline. Am I comfortable if my portfolio goes to $600? And if you are, then your risk allocation is probably right. If you're not comfortable with it going to $600 from $1,000, then you need to kind of back down, lower your stock allocation a little bit, and put a little more somewhere else into something a little more stable, maybe like a bond portfolio. So that's how we think about it, is we look at the downside and then we try and build an allocation that manages to that downside, and so we don't exceed what our risk allocation is. And then I'll leave it at that. That kind of covers how we do our risk planning, which is critical for us.
Okay, so that leads us up to can you kind of share with us how you got involved with investing, and then how'd you get to go? How'd you pick or choose the career path to working with the family office?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of people, I graduated college with zero idea what I wanted to do. I had a degree in physiology, which made me qualified to do not a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh, physiology! Wow.
Yeah, so I had grandiose plans when I went to college of going to medical school. That lasted for about a month, and then but I did go ahead and finish my degree in physiology. So my father made a recommendation to me that I should look at either consulting firms or investment banks, and maybe try and spend a couple years with one of those, where I'd see a lot of different businesses, and maybe I'd observe one that I liked, and I wanted to go to work, and I would want to go to work for one of those industries. I ended up spending 6 years in investment banking. And what I realized is that I got a pretty good head for numbers, and I like the process of looking at a business, analyzing it, understanding how they make money, what their positioning is, and then trying to determine what it might be worth and whether it was good buy or sell. So I liked that process. I went back to business school at USC after 6 years of investment banking, and I joined a very small asset manager in Pasadena called Roger Ingham and Associates. And we grew that from about $2 billion in assets to $19 billion over the 7 years I was there. And we were very fortunate to sell it right around 2000 during the tech bubble, and got kind of top dollar for it. And I don't think the buyer was too happy when the markets rolled over 12 months later, but for us it worked out well. And that was kind of how I got my start. I left there, I retired. I were joking about this earlier. I retired at 38. That retirement lasted about 4 hours, and my wife told me to find something to do or get out of the house. So too young, not enough hobbies, and too much ADD to sit around the house. So I went to work for a competitive money manager in Pasadena called Provident Investment Counsel. I ran the small cap strategy there for almost 8 years. I took a second retirement, and it really wasn't a retirement per se. It was more of I was stepping away. I wanted to work with family offices. My intention was to take a 6-month break and then restart with family offices. The timing was, phenomenal for me. I left there June 30th of 2008. The financial crisis hit full tilt in September of 2008. And instead of sitting there managing money and trying to figure out what to do in a 40% downturn, I was, writing a blog and giving some people some advice. At the beginning of 2009, I joined a family office, kind of an iconic family, part of the Bronfman family. They were the founders of Seagram's, to help manage their money. And spent about 4 years with them, and then made a little pit stop at a money manager to help them fix their business up, and came over here about 5 years ago to Arnell to work with the Argyros family. So it was kind of a long process, a few stops, but primarily I was an investment banker where I learned how to analyze businesses. I was a money manager where I learned how to invest capital. And now I work for family offices where I allocate risk. I select other managers in some instances, and I also manage money.
That's incredible. And can you I just want our audience to understand, when you went to your first company, you took them from approximately about 2 million, and then you said then you made like billions, right?
They had 2 billion under management, and we grew it to 19 billion.
Okay.
So that was right at the beginning of the tech run. When we got there, they had no technology stocks in 1994. I say we because another gentleman joined a month before me, or a month after. I can't remember now. We joined basically at the same time, and we became partners and ran a number of mutual funds for them, some of the private wealth business, and we were also the technology analysts at the firm. So we had kind of a front seat on the evolution of the internet. Got to hang out with fun people like Steve Case of America Online, and really learn how the plumbing of the internet was built and structured, and it was fun.
Wow.
I kind of miss those days.
That's incredible how you take a company that's and you just achieve outstanding results for these companies and family offices. It seems like you have this knack and knowledge to you're like a magician or a genie with these companies. How you just got them from X and they're producing the value. You took their value and just cracked it into huge numbers, which is incredible. And I want to ask you, any advice to someone looking to work with a wealthy family?
And I want to make a comment on what you just said, Marilyn. I think the most important thing is having a process, right? And being intellectually honest about your process. So I've developed, and they change over time, but I've developed processes for all the different things I do. So if I'm looking at a business, there's a 60-step process that I followed. It started out as a 1-step process, and it's evolved into about 60 steps. But we just kind of systematically go through that process to make sure you don't miss anything. So if we're looking at another manager to invest some money with, to give somebody capital to invest on our behalf, we've got a long process that we follow there. If you're buying a stock individually yourself, or you're buying a mutual fund or an ETF, or you're allocating your own portfolio, I think it's important to have a process in place that you can go back and look at and say, wow, this really worked. Did I get lucky? Or is my process working? On the flip side, sometimes you don't make money in an investment, and you need to go back and look at the process and say, hey, was there something wrong with the process? Did it not have a step in there where I could have foreseen why we lost money? Or maybe I just got a little unlucky. Being able to identify the difference between, hey, we know what we're doing, we did a good job, and we got lucky is very difficult. In this market environment where everything seems to be going up all the time, there's a lot of people who are fooling themselves to think that their process, if they really have one, is working all the time, when in fact they're getting a little lucky. So being able to separate your luck from your good decisions, and then understanding, okay, what went into those good decisions so I can repeat it, that's critical to being successful in investing. So I wanted to emphasize that point because I think it's critical. You have to recognize when you're lucky and when you're unlucky too. So you should always, I think people probably heard, write down your thesis. Why do I own this company? Why, the people buying GameStop a couple of months or a month or so ago, like, why are you buying it? Okay. Because it's going up? Well, that's kind of a silly reason to just own it just because it goes up. You want to understand the underlying value. Am I getting a discount to the value? Do I think it's worth 15 and I'm buying it for 10? Okay, I have a chance to make some money. Do I think it's worth 15? I'm buying it for 200. I'm probably not going to make money on that. So, so you've got to follow your process a little bit. So your question was any advice for working with a family? A couple of things. It's a small universe. I don't exactly know how many family offices there are in the country. They're growing, certainly, because as wealth is being created, more and more people are setting up family offices. I think it's important you have to be, as an employee here, you have to be really discreet with information that you share. People are always trying to figure out how to get in and sell something to us and get access to the family. And our job is to make sure that they don't get access to the family, and B, we don't divulge any information that the family doesn't want divulged. So that confidentiality is super critical. I think you need to have a skill that you offer that the family you want to work for needs. So in my case, for some reason, I am able to manage money and make really good risk-adjusted returns. That's a skill that families want. If I was scheduling the household help, I don't know how to do that. I wouldn't be much value add to the family in something like that. They've got a really beautiful boat. I couldn't drive the boat either, right? So we have somebody who does that and does that really well, and he's very experienced and a great guy. So there's all kinds of different niches inside these families. You just need to identify what are your strengths, and of course what are your weaknesses too, and then are they applicable for something that a family needs. And if it's not, and this is your desire is to work for these families, then you need to try and develop those skills. Whether it's providing a concierge service for them. Hey, maybe you're great at scheduling travel. Well, these families travel a lot. A lot of them have their own vehicles and travel in, whether it's planes or boats or whatever. And so there's a level of coordination that needs to go on to operate those things. I mean, running a large boat and plane is like having a fleet of vehicles and your own business. So if that's your skill set, then own that, and then try and find a connection to get you in front of that family. Right? It's always about the connections. You and I met through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great tool for that. You identify a family or the families you might be interested in, and use your LinkedIn connections to find out who might be connected there that you can possibly leverage for an introduction. I think that's probably the best way to get to a family. But the confidentiality is critical. And the loyalty. You have to be loyal to these families.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. And like you said, like you have a very special, I would say, I don't know, a gift, mastery of just getting incredible numbers on what you do. You're really specialized in your skills. So lucky to have you. Is there any fun stories you want to share? Like maybe as a first investor, are you able to share your one of your favorite investments or anything like that, just for fun?
Favorite investments. So we run very concentrated portfolios, as an example. So we are, we'll run like an 8-stock portfolio. It's not super exciting for your crowd, but here's an example of some of the things we own. We own Costco and Target. Why? Because people go there. You saw the downturn. Target reported their numbers. Their numbers were great last quarter for the Christmas quarter when the country's kind of struggling economically in a lot of spots. So they're not low end stores catering to they're not like the 99-cent store. They're kind of that next level up. They cater to the to the lower ends of the middle class, to the upper ends of the middle class, right? People who spend money consistently. So we like businesses like that. We still own Apple, still a leader, still growing their business. It is getting a little expensive, and so we may tail that down a little bit. But we tend to own businesses where we think there's good long growth prospects, great management teams. They're built to last. We want sustainable businesses, and we want businesses that when we buy them that we think are undervalued, that the marketplace is disrespecting for some reason. We bought Target when they had their credit card fraud issue, back a number of years ago, and the stock fell into the 40s because people thought, nobody's going to shop there because their credit cards were hacked. Well, guess what? People still shop at Target, and it's not the it's not the fancy store in the world, but guess what? They've got everything you need. It's a one-stop shop. It works well, and now the stock is almost $200. So we look for those dislocations, the stock gets misvalued for some reason that's not a permanent problem in the company.
Ah,
Just
excellent.
temporary issue.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And are we allowed to ask, did you splurge? Is there anything you'd say you splurged on? You said you because you retired twice for a second. Is there any fun thing that you just enjoyed for being successful? Because that's kind of like you're like, wow, they made it. Are you allowed to share anything fun like that?
Yeah, I wish there was more of that, but no, we live a pretty modest existence. We're in our home a lot. We have 3 kids. 2 are still in college, so I'm still footing the bill for that. So I guess I'm splurging on the 2 college educations right now. We travel a little bit, mostly domestically. We were fortunate enough to be able to go on the family boat a couple years ago. They let me take my family up there for a week, which was phenomenal. Truly an off the charts, once in a lifetime kind of vacation, which we were super grateful for. We are members of Inspirata, which is kind of a travel a conglomerate, or I don't know what you call it, affinity group, where you have access to a bunch of kind of really beautiful homes around the country. You have to pay for them. But so that is, I guess, one of our splurges. When we do go travel, we try to stay in really super nice homes, where we can take multiple people. We took 5 couples, 4 other couples with us for our 25th anniversary to Telluride, and we rented a house up there that was amazing. It was a 10,000 square foot home on a golf course in Telluride, and just hung out there for the week. So I guess that's it. Travel and friends.
Yeah, I just because you retired twice and you're always working. I just was like, do you do anything else besides work? So
I try to work out almost every day. I play golf when I can. We ski as a family, and we do a lot of travel to see our kids. So, they all play sports, and traveling to see college games is really super fun. This year has been kind of a downer because there has been no games, but my daughter's soccer season's getting ready to start up in Arizona. So we're looking forward to traveling out there and seeing her play, and looking forward to next fall to getting back to Mississippi to see the Rebels play some games where my youngest son goes.
Oh yeah, and you showed me all your USC champion hats, and so how just real quickly before we go, how did COVID affect your life and your business real quick, and then I think we'd love to hear that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at home for 3 months. Mostly because I needed to have a clear head, and it's a little busy here in the office. We never closed our offices. We're not essential, but we're critical because we run housing. So we made decisions to stay open. Some of our older employees went home for health concerns, but most people have been here every day. I'm here today, as you and I are in video, so you can see I'm sitting in the office. Other than the market disruptions, I'd say the biggest impact on our business is because people who want to access us, present us with investment ideas, aren't traveling as much. We're doing a lot more, Zoom videos with them. And so that's increased their capacity to have meetings with us by probably 5x. Because, typically somebody from the East Coast would fly on a Monday, have a couple days of meetings, fly home on Thursday or Friday, and, they lose 2 days to travel. Well, now they don't have to travel. So that's 2 more days a week that they can do meetings. And our capacity hasn't increased at all. So we've made a number of changes from that standpoint. One is at the end of last year, the last 2 months, I stopped taking calls and meetings from investments because we were overbooked, and I couldn't. I was about ready to drop from the exhaustion of all the meetings.
Yeah.
And this year, I only take calls and meetings on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, trying to control the flow a little bit, because while they increased their capacity 5x, we haven't increased our capacity at all. So it's just kind of a forced way to help our schedule.
Oh, beautiful. Well, and so if somebody wanted to keep up with you, where could they keep up with you? A website, company, LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn certainly. I don't keep it super updated, and my description of what I do here is a little vague. That goes back to the confidentiality of the family issue. I do speak at the local universities, probably 4 to 6 times a semester, whether it's USC, UCLA, Loyola, San Diego State, Cal State Bakersfield, Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine. So periodically you'll see something advertised by the universities about that. That's just trying to give back and helping the kids. I think it's important. I've made enough mistakes in life and done some good things too, but enough mistakes that, boy, if I could impart a little bit of helpful commentary to the kids, I feel like it's time well spent.
Well, thank you so much, Ned, for being on the show today. Thank you, Moguls, for listening. Until next week, cheers, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. Bye.